And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, we love you there as well. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We will chat it up with our friend Sam Yarnell, get into some fun NFL conversations. I am buying in on one NFL team that we've all been taught to never buy in on. That I will tell you about coming up in about 10 minutes. And then I want to debate, and I don't even know if it's necessarily even a debate, but I think it's an interesting conversation about which of the rookie quarterbacks drafted, or which of the guys drafted, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, Fernando Mendoza. I think there's an argument to be made about which one will actually start a game in the NFL first, and it's not the one you're probably thinking of. We'll explain that coming up a little later on in the show as well. Interesting news out of the NBA, a story involving Nikola Jokic that I had to do a double take on when I read it last night. I want to get into that a little bit. And also, the NBA releasing its opening night, opening week, and Christmas Day schedule. So we'll talk about that coming up a little later on in the program. Notes from baseball, one from Little League, the little kids who are exploited this time every year. Isn't America great? The Little League World Series, it's wonderful. It's the ultimate in exploitation. We'll have that coming up a little later on. Also a thought for Major League Baseball and odds and ends. All of that still to come in the show. But we start things out as we always do on this Tuesday. It's time for the big story. And the big story is presented by the Daily Wrap, our Substack newsletter. More and more of you subscribing each day, and we appreciate you doing so. Our new newsletter that we launched just a couple of months ago. It is fantastic. If you haven't done so yet, scan the QR code with your phone right below. It's free to subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. A lot of people, Substacks, they charge you. We don't charge you anything. And we give you all the best from this show in newsletter form. Go and get it. It's available every afternoon. We encourage you to sign up for the Daily Wrap newsletter. All right. We should be talking about DiJonai Carrington and her fantastic effort last night, albeit in a loss for Chicago on the road in Seattle against a terrible Storm team. I mean, the Storm used to be one of the real franchises that you talked about in the WNBA. They're just abysmal this year. They may not win 10 games all year. Well, last night they got a win over Chicago. And DiJonai Carrington, though, in the loss for Chicago, played well. She had 26 points, 6 rebounds. Good effort from her off the bench, albeit in a losing effort, coming off that foul that everybody's been talking about, where she clotheslined. There it is. We got it? There it is. Here's the clothesline seen by everybody. Where she clotheslined Sophie Cunningham in a eventual loss for Chicago at home against the Indiana Fever. All right, we don't need to see more of it. We've seen enough of it. This is the before shot, right before she clotheslined her. Stan Hansen lariat style. So, in the aftermath of this, she gets sent back to the locker room. She gets on her phone, because that's what all us kids do these days. She gets on her phone and tweets this. White privilege at Indiana Fever. And clearly everybody takes that as a shot, towards Sophie Cunningham, or a shot towards, hey, they threw me out of the game and gave me a flagrant foul too, and it's white privilege for Sophie Cunningham. And we on this show attacked is the wrong word. We criticized her use of the term white privilege, because ultimately all you're doing when you use white privilege in an instance where it isn't white privilege is you're discrediting the argument that other people might want to make when it comes to white privilege, white male privilege, all these different types of privilege that people bring up these days. Well, now DiJonai Carrington has come out and said, oh, no, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it about the foul. I wasn't talking about that. The problem for DiJonai Carrington in trying to make that argument is you didn't say what you meant it about. So all you did was allow people to fill the vacuum of you not explaining or putting into context why you thought it was white privilege at the Indiana Fever. All you did was leave it open to interpretation and leave it open for people to figure out on their own what you meant when you tweeted out the words, there it is again, white privilege. So it's not on us, DiJonai Carrington, to try and explain or try to guess what it is you're putting out there. People are going to make assumptions, rightly or wrongly. And in this case, you didn't give them much of an option because you didn't say much. All you did was put out the tweet or the post on X as it would be. And this is another one of these examples, and we talked about it yesterday on the show. Kathy Engelbert's got to get on a conference call with every team, every player. Like, do it tomorrow. Say there's going to be a league-wide call, and get on the conference call. I almost swore. Get on the conference call and say, hey, you know what, everybody? Shut up about everything but basketball for a week. Can you give me a week? Can you give this league a week where we're not talking about some flagrant foul too? This player is okay with transgender females in the league. This player isn't. 1 week. Is this league capable? Today is Tuesday, August 11th. Tuesday, August 11th. Let's see, can we get through the next 7 days without some bad headline for this league? I don't know if they're capable. And there was a part of me that talked about, hey, maybe this is the growing pains of a league that just exploded too quickly and didn't know how to handle success. You know, sometimes you hear about people where they say, hey, success could go to your head. Maybe the league just had too much success too fast after sort of languishing in mediocrity for so many years. Then Caitlin Clark comes along, just blew up too fast. But it's been repeated mistake after mistake after mistake. Just shut up for a week, all of you. Play basketball. Let people talk about that. We're going to talk about football. We'll do it next. All right, I've had my say in the big story. Let's see what this guy has to say. Sam Yarnell is here. Somebody sent me a note the other day. They said, keep Sam wound up. I said, that's not very difficult. Let's talk some football today. Full preseason schedule gets into flow this week. I want to talk. I've never, and look, you see the headline at the top of the screen already, so you already know what we're about to talk about. So me trying to lead into this is really kind of worthless. I'm buying in on the Cowboys this year. I'm buying in on the Dallas Cowboys. So much so that I wouldn't be shocked if they won the division. Like, I've sat here and looked at the schedule, looked at the roster, looked at what they've done in the offseason, and I finally, maybe it's a fool's errand. Maybe I'm the chump. You know, you go to a poker table, they always say if you can't spot the chump at the table, the chump is you. Maybe I'm the chump at the table, Sam Yarnell. But I'm buying in on the Dallas Cowboys at the very least as a playoff team, and I think potentially even a contender. Now, I should probably explain. Hold on. I should probably explain some of my logic because I didn't really give much of it. But the reality is, I look at everything. What have we constantly hammered Jerry Jones on and this team on? The defense. So what do? They put all their attention in this offseason into improving this defense, and they've done it. And I'm not just talking about the Quinnen Williams deal that took place yesterday, but, you know, Rashawn Gary, this edge rusher, the Caleb Downs pick I love. You know, they rebuilt the safety room. I'm buying in on Dallas. And they've made a whole bunch of moves. Kobe Durant at corner. If it all works together and the offense is what we think the offense is, why not, Sam?
Well, there's one big reason, and I'll get to that. But really quick, just to nitpick something the Dallas Cowboys are doing that I have been a little bit confused by. They're playing Caleb Downs in the nickel position a lot, which like I get for a lot of guys who are coming out of college, but I don't get for like the very clear second best Power 5 safety, not only in this draft class, but that we've seen in like, and there's an argument for him to be the best, but that we've seen in like the last I don't know, 5 years come out of the college ranks. Like legitimately, it was him and Sonny Styles, and it was like you can take your pick of the litter because these two guys are going to be franchise cornerstones. And they took a guy who was playing at safety, from what I understand, his entire life, definitely his entire time in college, and they just moved him to the nickel. It was a weird move. I'm interested to see how it plays out. But again, that's very nitpicky.
Yeah.
The real reason that I think the only thing that I think is going to work against you is, are you confident that the Dallas Cowboys can do everything that you expect them to do with Joe Milton or Sam Howell under center? Because you go through, literally, pull up Dak Prescott's football reference page right now. Go through season by season. It's healthy, injured, healthy, injured, healthy, injured,
health,
healthy, injured.
You have to assume health.
Or it's not even injured, right? Because I don't want to say injuries are a blanket thing for this, but statistically, it's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And last year was a really good year for Dak Prescott. So again, I am a perpetual believer of history repeats itself, and I just think that when you have a quarterback that is as streaky as that, when you have any athlete as streaky as that, we talk about this across sports, right? Streakiness is not something that you can easily shed. And it just feels like that's who Dak Prescott is. So I just don't have a lot of confidence in him performing well this year, quite literally for that reason alone. And don't get me wrong, going into next year, on the low, I will definitely be looking to buy the Cowboys, but it just feels like they're on a little too much of a high right now for you to be able to buy on them, because they've gone bad season, mediocre season, and now you're counting on them to take that step to good season.
I just look at the moves they made in the offseason. And again, football isn't played on paper. I get that. I'm the first one to acknowledge that. But I just look at the moves this team has made. And so much of what we've picked at with this organization is the managerial, is the roster composition. It's what Jerry has and hasn't done as the general manager. He's put the pieces in place to me for this thing to be successful this year. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it feels like to me, for the first time, it's hard to go after Jerry Jones when you look at the way they've put together this roster and where they placed the emphasis in the offseason. It just feels like it's difficult for me to go after Jerry Jones. Where are the Cowboys, by the way, in the Super Bowl rankings? You can get them right now at 22-1 on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl and to make the playoffs. Dallas to make the playoffs is, let's see, what would you think it is, Sam?
It's got to be a fair price. It's
minus 108. Minus 108.
Wow.
On Dallas to make the playoffs.
So interesting.
They have better odds. They have better odds to make the playoffs than Chicago, Tampa Bay, which is kind of odd to me.
Tampa Bay is a disaster.
I know you think Tampa Bay is a disaster. Minnesota.
They still haven't figured it out. Their quarterback is talking about how much he hates the organization on a weekly basis at this point. You want to talk about the mishandlings of mishandlings, man. I mean, we talk about my buzzword on the show, right? Organizational malpractice. That's what they got going on in Tampa. Real quick, I just got on your Jerry Jones point. I agree with you about the Jerry. Like this, if it goes wrong this season, I don't think the questions will be on Jerry. I think they're going to be on Brian Schottenheimer. And that's just because there's been so much research done across the NFL recently about how new coaches have to have success early or they don't have success at all. So I think it's all going to turn to Brian Schottenheimer if it doesn't go well this year for Dallas.
Interestingly, on that NFC South, all three teams that you think of potentially to win the division, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta, Carolina, they're all plus money to make the playoffs. Somebody's got to win the division. So, I mean, it's kind of weird to me that they're all plus money. Because if you just pick one of them's going to win the division and make the playoffs. So it's kind of goofy in that way.
Well, just pick whichever one to win the division.
Right.
Because they're not getting a wild card team. That's the only reason you'd bet a team to make the playoffs is for that wild card security blanket. Breaking news. The NFC South is not getting 2 teams in the NFL playoffs this year. Clip it.
Oh, we just did. Don't worry. We're coming back. I've got more to talk about from the NFL, including an interesting prediction when it comes to 2 of the top quarterbacks. We're coming back. This Tuesday edition of the show continues. All right, Sam Yarnell. Some more NFL to talk about. Read that headline. I had a vision last night, sitting in the Page Estate, the palatial Page Estate here in Las Vegas. I had a vision last night. A vision of Carson Beck as a starter in the NFL. Everything's coming up roses early on in training camp. What we saw from him in the preseason opener for Carson Beck. Everything's coming up rosy, and everybody's already starting to talk about the idea of Carson Beck as the future starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. Well, Sam, I had another vision yesterday beyond him being the starter for the Cardinals, and it's this. Carson Beck starting in the NFL before Fernando Mendoza. And it feels like it's a real possibility if you actually sit and look at it. The 2 teams they're playing on, the expectation levels, the perception that the Raiders are going to baby Mendoza a little bit here and make Kirk Cousins the starter to start the season. The reporting yesterday out of Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, where the Raiders are practicing, that you've got, by the way, practicing in 110-degree heat. Like, really? Indoor facility? Mark Davis? Come on. The idea that Carson Beck could actually be starting in the league before Fernando Mendoza. Do you buy it?
No. And, listen, the Hall of Fame game was a lot of fun. We all had a lot of fun. It was cool. It was nice. Football was back on our TV screen. I said it on Friday. I'll say it again. Carson Beck looked great against guys who are going to be selling insurance and stocking grocery shelves in 6 months.
Nationwide
guys
is
who are
on
going
your
to be
side.
stars on the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts next year. Those are CFL teams, for those of you who aren't as ingrained in the CFL as your boy over here is. No, so listen, there's so many things about this, right? One, if that did happen, and this is all barring injury, right? Like, right. Of course, Jacoby Brissett could shred his Achilles on the first snap of the game, and if Gardner Minshew, I think that's their backup, could absolutely come in and tear his ACL for the 8th time in his career, and Carson Beck could be thrust into motion week 2. That could certainly happen. Kirk Cousins' head could explode, and then Fernando Mendoza would be the starter. I think Fernando Mendoza will be the starter before Carson Beck because Fernando Mendoza was like the number 1 overall pick. And as much as like the Raiders are talking about or came into training camp, I should say, talking about how Kirk was going to start the season as their starter and yada, yada, yada. Like the discussion that I've heard in the NFL circles is like, brother, everyone understands Kirk Cousins for what he is. He's a guy who has not looked the same since 3 years ago when he tore his Achilles, right? He's a guy who really did not look good at any point with Atlanta, right? He's a guy who is there to kind of mentor Fernando Mendoza and show him how to kind of be an NFL quarterback. If they want to win games, which the Las Vegas Raiders are at a point where they kind of need to start winning games, they have to give the ball to Fernando Mendoza. On the other side of it, the Arizona Cardinals want to do the opposite of win games. They want to lose games. And I'm actually glad we're talking about the Cardinals on this show specifically. Did you see the story about Michael Bidwell that's making the rounds? He's caught himself up in yet another controversy controversy. There's some investment scam that was going on with young athletes, like young NFL and NBA players, as I understand it. And Bidwell has found himself wrapped up in all of this, and now there's a death involved as well. It's all very, very weird. The Cardinals do not want to win games this year, and Jacoby Brissett will very much help them do that, along with that defense that they've somehow piecemealed together. The Las Vegas Raiders need to win games this year, and Fernando Mendoza is how they do that.
I think they've sold the fan base on the fact that they don't have to win games this year. I think they've sold the fan base on the idea that there is a process, Philadelphia 76ers fans will be familiar with, that there is a process in place here for the organization. And to the argument about Kirk Cousins, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception in his last 4 games last year, including a win on the road at Tampa Bay, 30 of 44 for 373 and 3 scores in that game. Played very capable, competent quarterback. They don't need him to be Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings here, Sam. They need him to be a competent quarterback that gives them a chance to win over the first few weeks of the season. And frankly, the reason they're starting him even more so is, and we've talked about this previously, the schedule for them early on, after a game against the Dolphins to open the season in Vegas, is at the Chargers, at the Saints, home for the Chiefs, at the Patriots, home for the Bills, and then home for the Rams. So they're going to get their what's kicked in, and they don't want to put Fernando Mendoza in there. But on the but there's 2 sides to this. The reason Mendoza won't start in the first 6 or 7 games is that schedule. The reason he may not start longer than that is if by some miracle the Raiders pull off, 4-3, 3-4 to start the season, which is crazy to think of. What reason would they have to rush him onto the field if Cousins is playing well and they're winning football games against a tough schedule?
All right, so I guess I have to be the Raiders guy on the show once again, as I always seem to have to be, despite the other guy on the show living in Las Vegas.
I just live here.
All right, so to the just original point about the organization getting the fan base ready to not perform well this year, I disagree. Actions speak a hell of a lot louder than words. I think you and I agree about that across the board. The actions of the Las Vegas Raiders have told you nothing but we want to freaking win this year. The Max Crosby thing didn't work out for whatever reason. Then they went out and spent a crap ton of money on a lot of guys who are going to be really good in the short term, right? They rebuilt that offensive line. They added weapons. They added a ton on the defensive side of the football. The Las Vegas Raiders are built to win. They are ready to start winning. And I just don't think Kirk Cousins, I just don't think he brings them that. There's the smoke is starting to come, right? We've gotten through the 3 weeks of training camp. You had the fight with Kirk Cousins and Max Crosby. You've got all the conspiracy theorists all around saying it was a ploy to get Fernando Mendoza first team reps, right? The smoke is starting to come. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I am at the point where I would not be shocked if Mendoza starts that Dolphins game. I would not be shocked.
Wow. I would be. I'd be thoroughly shocked. I think you're putting him in a position. To fail if you have him starting the season with that. I mean, that's a murderer's row schedule for the first 7 games, and you better have a lot of belief in him mentally to believe he can work through that. We're talking baseball when we come back. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap from our Las Vegas studios. Good to have you with us. Some NBA to get to in about 10 minutes. Interesting story involving Nikola Jokic and opening night NBA schedules released, as well as Christmas Day. Give you all of that scoop coming up. Let's talk some baseball. Let's talk about the true boys of summer, and then a little bit on the men of summer. The boys of summer being little leaguers. I go through this exercise every year of turning on ESPN, and you watch all these Little League World Series games. And I say this all the time. It is the ultimate in child exploitation that ESPN's making all this money off the Little League World Series and airing all these different regionals and all these different games. And now we live in this era of NIL and college athletes being compensated. Heck, high school athletes now starting to do endorsement deals. And you wonder if it's only a matter of time before there's like little leaguers getting endorsement deals. As you watch these games, keep that in mind. But also, every year it feels like now we run into these controversies. We've seen it in Little League softball. We're seeing it in the Little League baseball of players being ruled ineligible, teams having to forfeit games. And now we've got an interesting one out of the Midwest where a team out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, after playing in a game and I think winning, was deemed to have a player who was ineligible, and they were basically kicked out of the tournament. Kicked out of the Little League World Series tournament. I think they're supposed to play in the championship game today. Well, a judge in the middle of the night, or late last night, ruled and gave a temporary restraining order, put in a temporary injunction, which said, no, the team that's been ruled ineligible by Little League officials is going to be allowed to play. So now you've got games being played. You don't know if they matter. You don't know what's real. You don't know what isn't. And this is the state of Little League baseball. And look, this has been going on for a long time. I'm not going to pretend that this is something that's new. Teams allegedly bussing in players from outside their district and bringing in ringers to try and put the best possible super team of kids together to try and win at the Little League World Series or advance to Williamsport, because all roads lead to Williamsport. This stuff's been going on forever. You can go back to Danny Almonte and trying to bring in kids and fake birth certificates and all these different things. You watch some of these Little League World Series games, you see kids that are, massive, and you're just like, really? But obviously they have the paperwork to document who they are. And we've seen it. We saw it with the international team last year. I think I got heat because I talked about a kid on Chinese Taipei who just looked like there's no way he could possibly be within the legal age limits. Oh, you're attacking children. No, I'm attacking the adults who go and put children in these positions, even though those children really are just going out trying to play a game of baseball that may not be eligible or shouldn't be playing. Another topic entirely. The bottom line is, even the joys that we used to get out of Little League baseball have been sucked away. And increasingly so over the years because of things like players being, taken out of one district, put into another to try and put together these super teams for the Little League World Series. So as you watch the Little League World Series, just know that the joy is being sucked out of it a little more each year. Major League Baseball. Last night, the Dodgers had Tarek Skubal make his debut at Dodger Stadium. He had already pitched for him on the road. Pitched for them last night on the home turf, and the Dodgers won 6-5. But Skubal wasn't great. 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. He threw 95 pitches. Dodgers had to come from behind late in this game to get the win. Freddie Freeman hitting what would turn out to be the game winner in that one. So the Dodgers get the win. What are they, like 4-7 since the trade deadline? And the Tigers are like 7-3. Look, do I think it has anything to do with it? No. But if you are, you watch these teams after the trade deadline. Now I'm going to bring up another one in a second. You watch these teams that have been terrible all year or have been meddling or struggling. And then all of a sudden the trade deadline comes and goes and teams start to perform better. And I don't think it's any coincidence in some cases that happens, because you're playing leading up to the trade deadline. You've got multiple guys on your roster that don't know where they're going to be as that trade deadline approaches. These guys are human beings. They're not robots. So it can't shock anybody that guys would actually play better, more relaxed, looser following the trade deadline. Case in point, the New York Mets are playing some of the best baseball in all of the majors right now. They put a whooping on the Braves on Monday night, 8-5. Brett Beatty hit a grand slam. Now, are the Mets going anywhere? No. We know that. They dug themselves too big a hole. Unless they go, unless they go on a run like the Red Sox did before and after the All-Star break where they went like 30-5 over 35 games. Hey, if the Mets do that, you never know. So you're saying there's a chance. They're 53-67. They would need that kind of run if they're going to wind up trying to make a run at the wild card. But you never know. And meanwhile, the Red Sox, I think, have lost 3 games in a row now after a loss to the Blue Jays on Monday night. As things get increasingly tight in that AL wild card picture. All right, we're talking basketball. You're not going to want to miss it. Nikola Jokic, interesting story next. Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. And I don't want to say with an apology to a certain WNBA player, but certainly with some kudos. Some mega kudos for a certain WNBA player that has been much maligned in the early stages of her career. We'll get to that coming up in about 10 minutes and a whole bunch more. But let's talk about the men. The men of the NBA. A couple of interesting stories I want to talk about. One, the schedule, which we'll get to in a few minutes, which was announced on Tuesday morning. But the other is this story involving Nikola Jokic out of Greece, of all places, where the owner of the Panathinaikos basketball club, which is based in Athens, Greece, went on a podcast yesterday and revealed something very interesting. It was that he made a serious offer, what he's termed a serious offer. Anthony Slater had the story over at ESPN, so give him credit. That this owner of this Greek basketball team, Dimitrios Yiannakopoulos, put in a serious offer to the Denver Nuggets and to Nikola Jokic to try and lure him away from the NBA to go play in Europe. And this gets interesting because with NBA Europe launching soon and the league, starting to put together teams and locations and taking bids on franchises and stuff like that, it starts to open up this whole new world for NBA players that might be in the United States, that could be from overseas, who say, hey, I want to finish my career. Giannis Antetokounmpo has talked about potentially finishing his career in Greece. Would Nikola Jokic say, you know what, Denver's been nice, I won a championship and all, but maybe I want to finish my career back home in Europe? That's a possibility. And it's something that's going to be fascinating to watch how the NBA navigates over the next several years with aging stars potentially going back overseas to finish their careers back in their home markets. And do you do that? You take those aging stars. It's almost like the reverse of what MLS has done, where they've brought in aging European soccer stars and brought them into the United States for the purposes of propping up some of these MLS franchises, and it has worked brilliantly. Lionel Messi obviously being the latest one, the latest example in that regard. But in the case of Jokic, he's got 2 years remaining on his deal with the Nuggets, and the second year of that is his option. So really, it's 1 year left. And it sounds like this owner from this Greek team is going to try and make an offer to Jokic again after his deal is up. The thing is, Jokic is available for a huge extension at the end of next year, but he's 31 years old. 5 years, $359.5 million is what he'll be eligible to sign in July of 2027. I just wonder if Jokic even wants to play much beyond that. He has interests outside of basketball. He's talked openly about how much he loves his horses. I don't know if Jokic is going to be around that long. So enjoy him while you have him. He's not one of these guys that's going to play until he's 40. I suspect he may not even play until he's 35. Don't have any inside information. Just observational, anecdotal evidence, we'll call it. All right, from Jokic to the NBA schedule. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Get your first look at the NBA opening week schedule, American Express tip-off, opening week, national games. This is the most bizarre decision I've ever seen by the NBA. Major League Baseball, when they do opening day, they play day games during the week. And, people will call out of work, kids will get out of school, they'll go watch games. That's great. I don't understand this idea by the NBA to say that on Tuesday, October 20th, we're going to play a game between the Celtics and the Pistons at 3 p.m. Eastern. Now, look, as a guy who talks about sports for a living, I'll be thrilled to watch the triple header on NBC and Peacock that day. But why the NBA, in its infinite wisdom, decided they're going to put on a 3 p.m. Tuesday game between the Celtics and Pistons, which, by the way, while it's a nice game, if I am begging out of work at 3 p.m. Eastern on a weekday, is it really to watch this version of the Celtics, which is kind of in retool mode a little bit? They got rid of Jaylen Brown. They bring in Paul George. You still got Jason Tatum. It's still obviously a talented team and a playoff team. Maybe even a top 4 team, top 5 team in the East. But am I really tuning in to see the Celtics and the Pistons? Not saying, just saying. Then you have the Sixers and the Knicks. Boy, is that going to be a madhouse at Madison Square Garden. Knicks raising a championship banner to the rafters for the first time in over 50 years. LeBron, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe. Man, I can't wait. Can we just do that now? What do we got? 8 weeks? A little more than 8 weeks. And then the Thunder and the Spurs, Western Conference Finals rematch. Makes a lot of sense. And then you see the rest of the schedule there for the remainder of the week and some of the games that'll take place. I mean, the Warriors and Lakers late on Wednesday night. Knicks and Celtics later in the week. Spurs, they get the late game on opening night, and then they get a late game against the Rockets later in the week. But the early NBA schedule has been released, and the Christmas Day schedule's also been announced. 5 games on ABC. LeBron against the Lakers. Spurs versus the Knicks, no-brainer. Heat versus the Celtics. Thunder, Wolves, Nuggets, and Warriors. Those are your games on Christmas Day. So the NBA trying to get just a little bit of the headlines on this Tuesday, where there's so many other things fighting for our attention. Nothing's going to fight with us. We've got odds and ends coming up to wrap up the show next. Okay, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. But before we do, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. The audio version of this show available to you Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. We're available on all of them and more. Go and check us out. Works great as an audio companion while you're driving along, sitting in traffic, on the treadmill, waiting for a flight in an airport, while you're on that flight after it does finally leave the airport. Go and check out the podcast. 45 minutes, limited commercial interruptions. If you want no commercial interruptions, then go over to our YouTube channel. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place for all things video related to this show. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show. 45 minutes commercial free, waiting for you. It's fantastic. We've got extended conversations like the one we did yesterday with our friend Jason Cole, who's a Pro Football Hall of Fame selector, who talked at great length about not just this year's class, but the 2027 class, which is really where a lot of the conversation moves to now. Will Bill Belichick get in? Will Bob Kraft get in? Which quarterback or quarterbacks get in to the Hall of Fame next year? All of that on our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap Originals, Sports Wrap Shorts. 1 to 3 minute long vertical videos meant for people on the go. As big story breaks, we jump in with Sports Wrap Shorts. Again, available on our YouTube channel. Go and subscribe today. Then there's the Sports Wrap website, sportswrap.tv. That is sportswrap.tv. It's right above my head. You can't miss it. This is the place for all things Sports Wrap. The aforementioned podcast, the aforementioned TV version of the show, Sports Wrap Shorts, extended clips, the Substack newsletter, the Daily Wrap. If you haven't subscribed to this yet, go to sportswrap.tv and subscribe there. It's easy. It's free. We've got a comment section if you want to send us your thoughts. You like something on the show, you dislike something, love us, hate us, we don't care. Just send us an email, and we'll be happy to check it out. We've also got an affiliate finder. So if you're looking for your show, where to find the show in your market, whether it's the weekday show or the weekend version of the show, sometimes they're on different stations in your market, just go there, type in your city and state, it'll tell you where to watch the show. All of that available at sportswrap.tv. And without any further delay on this Tuesday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. The end has come. The search is over. If you missed it, Cooper Flagg's Logo Man patch, his debut patch, has been pulled from a card shop in Rhode Island. There's the video of it. Everybody get excited. The big reveal's coming. Who's it going to be? A card-breaking group in Rhode Island pulling the Logo Man of Cooper Flagg. It is a one-of-one. It will be worth a lot of money. My advice to whoever won this auction, not that you're probably seeing this right now, but maybe you are, sell it right away. It will never be more valuable than it probably is now. While I think Cooper Flagg is a great player, and he won the Rookie of the Year, and we could debate whether or not he or Con Kneppel should have won it, his former Duke teammate. I don't think he is the transformational player that a lot of people do. And why? I mean, you've literally just hit a lottery ticket. You have the sure thing. You're probably going to get 7 figures for this card, which is mind-blowing on the surface and on its face. To think you're going to get 7 figures for this card. Take the money. Don't be an idiot. It's just not worth it. And there are so many people out there willing to pay for it. Hell, Cooper Flagg might pay for it himself. It's a beautiful card. It's a one-of-one. So there you go. Cooper Flagg's card pulled at a card shop in Rhode Island. Odds and ends. We owe not an apology. It's like that episode of Seinfeld with the neck hole. It wasn't actually an apology you gave me. James Spader and George Costanza. Not that we owe Angel Reese an apology for being as critical of her on the court as we were last season. But if we're going to call out when she doesn't play well, as at times she didn't last year and the me bounds and all that stuff, we got to call out the fact that she has been sensational this year. I think she's got like 22 double-doubles. The latest one was, I believe, last night. She went, I think, 20 and 16 last night, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, she's having a fantastic season for the Atlanta Dream, who are 20 and 12, by the way, having a great season in the WNBA, another team to obviously be reckoned with. But Angel Reese this year, 15.8 points a game, 11.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 1.5 steals. I mean, look, we got to be fair. If we were going to be critical of Angel Reese when when we thought she kind of stunk up the joint, got to give her all the credit in the world. She has improved her game, and she's worked to improve her game. A lot of people love the star and fame that comes with being a basketball player. She's gone out there and worked on her craft. She's gotten a lot better, so congratulations to her and the Atlanta Dream, who are having a great season. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for tuning in at home. David Ardsma on the show tomorrow to talk Major League Baseball and a whole bunch more. I'm Jason Page. That does it for Sports Wrap. We'll see you tomorrow.